if I ask you to plot and label a set of three collinear points, here's some things I don't want to see. I don't want you to use the marker. You really shouldn't be using the marker much at all. But if you did something like this, point, 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 and drew a line through it. And the point of using this software is that you can actually do things a lot more precise than a hand-drawn sketch. So this does nothing more than if I had asked you just to write it on a sheet of paper. Okay? So I don't want something like this because you can't manipulate this at all. We can't slide these points anywhere. We can't measure distances between points. We can't construct perpendiculars through those. So I don't want you to hand draw things. So using the marker, please don't do that. What I would prefer is you to use the points and the lines that are kind of in place in this program. And so three collinear points. Again, if you did something like this, there's no guarantee that these are 3 points in a straight line, because you can move one and it's off of the straight line from the others. Okay, so my suggestion would be start with 2, construct a line through these 2. So if you select those 2 points and go to this construct command and choose line, what you can then do is pick up another point. It can be anywhere on this line, and you see that it even highlights the line when it's locked into place. And that dynamically ties these 3 points. So now, no matter what, wherever I want to move this, so you see I can't move it off of that line. It's connected. It has to be 3 collinear points. So I want that extra relationship. Okay, so labeling then involves using the text tool and clicking on the point. Again, the reason that I want you to click on the point to label these is if you were labeling a point by just double-clicking or clicking somewhere in an open spot, typing in a letter, and then dragging it up to that. This point right here is not specifically named A. If I were to measure the distance between point I and A, which is something we'll do later, and I went to this measure and saw a distance, notice it assigned it a different point. It's not A, in fact it's J. It needs to be assigned a label in order to be able to do further manipulations on it. Okay, so do not label with a text box. Label by hovering over the element itself, clicking on it, so that you can give it a specific name. All right, questions on those type of things? All right, so for 3 non-collinear points, this one's a little bit easier because now you can just pick 3 random points. You can label each of them. And the reason you can do this is they don't need to be dynamically connected. You don't need to have them fall in a straight line all the time. So if you just plot 3 points, label them, you should be good on that. Okay, plot 2 points and construct a line through them. Okay, so if you, let's say we just take these 2 points. Once again, easiest thing to do is to connect these and use the construct tool to draw a line. Notice my line extends off of the screen. That's fine. In fact, that's what I prefer to see. Okay, a number of you did something like this. You maybe connected these with a segment, and then you use the marker tool to draw arrows on it. Okay, again, that's a representation of a line. Okay, however, by setting it up this way, you've actually created a line. Because if I were to scroll this way, do you think that line's ever going to stop? No. By definition, it goes on forever, and this program will model that. And so that's what I would prefer for lines and rays. I want it to extend off the page. If it gets to be where you have multiple lines and they're starting to get confusing of which one belongs to which, one, I've tried to set up pages so that doesn't happen. And 2, you can't always change the color of your lines. You can do it a couple ways. You can right-click on the line itself. If you right-click on it, you can choose to pick a different color. And there's like unlimited number of shades you can do. So it doesn't just have to be these basic colors that pop up. You can also go up if you highlight the line and choose display and change the color that way. If I wanted a brown line instead, whatever. Okay. All right, in that same right click, again, I encourage you to experiment with these to kind of look around and see what's available, but you'll see you can change the thickness of the lines also. You can change whether they're dashed or dotted or solid. Right. The final example here are the naming of the lines. And when you name a line, again, many of you used a marker to name that. Okay? It's not wrong for that, but I'd prefer that you use the labeling tool. So if you go to the text tool and double click in an empty spot, okay, I want you to go to the symbolic notation icon. It's this very last icon here, and it says symbolic notation when you hover over it. If you click that and then you choose the symbol that you're looking to represent. So I want a line, so I'm going to highlight the symbol that has the line over it, and then I can type LK, and I have my line named. If I need to change that, if I chose the wrong one, you don't have to delete the whole thing. You can just highlight it. If you want to change it to ray or segment, you can do that. Okay? So it works pretty easily on this. And the nice thing again about this is anytime you name elements this way, you can plug these into a calculator that I'll show you later when we get to the chapter on measurements. And so you can take a segment or a distance between L and K, and you can just drag that into a calculator, which is something you can't do if you write it out with the marker tool. All right. The last problem on this page, and again, just a reminder, these tabs down at the bottom left allow you to jump between pages. I've tried to make sure that you can see all the questions on your screen, so you don't have to scroll up and down too much. Okay? But this last question, draw representation of two planes intersecting. Easiest thing to do would be just represent a plane. It can be however many points you want. Do notice that when you fill in or create a plane, a couple things need to be taken into consideration. The order that you select points matters. So if I were to go diagonal points here and then hit Control L to enclose that space, it encloses it in the order that I selected points, which isn't going to give us the right answer. So you do need to go in either clockwise or counterclockwise rotation to get your points. If you wanted to fill this in, fill the entire plane in, you could select all the vertices or the points, hit Control P, or again go up to Construct and choose this interior as well. So here would be one plane. If I wanted to create another plane off of this, it might be easiest to connect some segments, and then choose in clockwise or counterclockwise rotation the vertices. Control P, or again Construct. Oops. Choose the interior point to allow you to see these planes intersecting.
When you're showing intersecting planes, you have to fill them in.
You don't have to. And really, this is kind of the one place where if you're doing some kind of a model of it, if you use your marker tool for this type of thing, like that would be fine. You can represent planes that way. It's where I'm not asking you to manipulate it too much. So you can do that for this particular assignment. Any questions on page 1? I think we move to, yeah, question. We're down here. If you click on this text tool right here, this giant A, and then you double click or you drag to reset the size or whatever in an empty space, it then opens up the text tools down there. Were you able to get that? Okay, so you can click on this A though, select the A, and then just double click in an empty spot. Okay, there you go. All right, any other questions on page 1? All right, if we look at page 2, and construct array with endpoint G passing through point H. So again, if you select your points, the order that you select points does matter with array. So whatever point you choose first is the endpoint. So if I wanted my array to open to the left, I'd have to pick the furthest to the right point first, hit construct array, and it'll open to the left. And again, just name your element using the symbolic notation command at the bottom in the text tool. And now, anytime I give you, a question and I provide figures or points in this case for you to manipulate, make sure you use those points, because I will have dynamically tied these the way I want them. So like this, if you were to try to drag point C along here, and you see that it can't move anywhere, right? And so if you wanted to test to see, do these determine a plane, you might see, are they collinear? So if you pick any two of them, construct a line through that. Is the third one on that line? Yes. So can you have a plane being identified by those 3 points? No, because once again, and I can use the marker tool to illustrate it. Oops. If we took a plane that passes through these points, there's another possibility of another plane that can pass through the same 3 points, and we can continue this and rotate it about. There's an infinite number of planes that would pass through points A, B, and C. So it can't actually determine the plane, it can only contain it. So these 3 points are coplanar, but they do not determine a plane. Okay, construct a segment with endpoints P and Q. Once again, if you plot your points, label them P and Q, and then you can connect them with Control L as the shortcut for a line segment, or you can use the construct command up here and name it using the symbolic notation. And then the final example, do these 3 points determine a plane? Now they fall off the same line, they're not connected in that way, so you have a plane. So you can use your marker to answer questions. And again, when you answer or name a plane, you do use the word plane. So you would actually type in plane and then whatever the points were, I forgot to see, D, E, and F. So any order for those would work, and you'd be good. So you can name it that way, or again, if you wanted, you could use the marker, but I'd prefer that you use the text tool. All right. Any questions on page 2?